Hello, everyone. Thanks for joining. Welcome to Vatigol. And well, this time I would like to talk to you about how I believe Leagues Cup could be better. This is a tournament that has received a lot of critics. A lot of people don't want it anymore. And there are rumors. Every year there are rumors that it will be the last edition and so on. But well, I believe it's something that if we made some adjustments, would be just as interesting to watch as the CONCACAF Champions Cup in this case. So, well, first, let's talk quickly about the current format. We had 36 teams, which first play a league phase to then play quarterfinals, semifinals, and final in a single match format. Then we have the league phase is composed by three matches with, playing against the other league. So, Liga MX teams play against MLS and vice versa. We have a table, standings position for each league, penalty shootouts in case of ties, all A Liga MX play, 18, and 18 best MLS teams play. The tournament is completely played in the US. We have three spots for the CONCACAF Champions Cup, and we have no Canadian teams. In this case, I mean, not qualified per se. And the tournament is played over 1 month. So this is the current format. The representation of the last edition last year, first edition with this current format. The league phase or the phase one had these final standings. For Liga MX, it was Toluca, Pachuca, Tigres, and Puebla. And for the MLS, it was Seattle Sounders, Inter Miami, Los Angeles Galaxy, and Orlando City being the four best teams in both leagues uh, based on the league phase first. And then we had the quarterfinals, semifinals, and final. Okay, so in the quarterfinals, the best Mexican team, which was Toluca, played versus the worst, the worst qualified from the first four from the MLS, and vice versa. Seattle Sounders, which was the best, played against Puebla, and Mexican teams were eliminated soon. Then we had both MLS and uh, we had MLS semifinals and final, and Seattle Sounders was the champion, first title, and so this was the last edition representation. Pros and cons I find in this format. This is, of course, my opinion. 36 teams, too many in my opinion. And then we have the league phase, quarterfinals, final being a single match games. So half. I would just make some adjustment. The league phase is fine, but I would make it home games and away games, the same as quarterfinals, semifinals. But the final, I would keep it a single match. So is some adjustments, as I was mentioning. Three league phase matches against teams from the opposing league that I would conserve it. It's better. Like I don't want to watch again on the league phase. Let's say Puebla versus San Luis. If I already have that in the Liga MX, I am assuming the same for MLS. Like, why do you want to watch again, let's say, I don't know, Minnesota versus I don't know, Colorado again, if you already have that in the MLS. So that is fine. The penalty shootouts in case of ties during the league phase, it's sort of okay. I don't love it. It's more like I don't care if it stays, if it disappears, no problem for me. I would also reduce the quantity of teams with Liga MX. It's too many. It's all the league for starters, and then for MLS, again, it's too many. So the quantity, I would change it. Being played in the US is something I don't like, and I know that a lot of people don't like. Then three spots for the CONCACAF Champions Cup that I would conserve it. Not having Canadian teams here again. I know that Canadian teams that play in the MLS play it, but I would make it like more specifically for Canadian tournaments. And then being played over 1 month is too short, and the trophy, I don't like it. I would change it. But let's talk about my proposal. I will make it 20 teams instead of 36. The league phase, we conserve it. The quarterfinals and semifinals and all these parts of the tournament would be with matches home and away. The final, I would keep it as a single match game. I would make it with eight Liga MX teams and eight MLS teams. And I would include four Canadian teams directly from the Canadian Championship and the Canadian Premier League. Then I would conserve the international matchups in league phase and quarterfinals, the final at a neutral venue based on the finalists. For example, if we had two Mexican teams in the final, why to play it in the US? Or if we had two Canadian teams, hypothetically speaking, again, why in the US? So, based on the finalists, I would select the need. Well, my proposal is to select a neutral venue. Then, three teams qualify for the CONCACAF Champions Cup. I would conserve it, and the tournament in my proposal would be played over 3 to 4 months. So now, the explanation. So, why do I want to reduce it from 36 to 20? I will take the World Cup as an example. Right now, we had 16 extra teams for the next edition being played this year. And thanks to that, we have teams like Curacao, Uzbekistan, Jordania, and so on. So I don't have anything against them. But I don't know if anybody knows who's the coach for Curacao, or if you know what's the, I don't know, the captain of Uzbekistan. And well, my point is, not a lot of people will follow these matches. They don't make a lot of enthusiasm. We all know that the stadiums, well, or at least that's like an idea. It's an assumption. But my point is, you make it when you make it more teams, it's less interesting, it's less competitive, it's less attractive. In the past, in the previous format, imagine if Curacao had qualified in the previous format, would have been more surprising, more interesting to follow, would have made more hype, but in the previous format, not now with 16 extra teams. Even more in the past, when it was 24 teams, you had, for example, two South American teams. Right now, seven out of them are playing the World Cup. So that's why I would like to make it more exclusive, reduced, and as a consequence, you would get a more attractive and more interesting competition. Then, why to keep it? Why to maintain it? Why not to disappear it? Well, in my opinion, we get the CONCACAF Champions Cup on the second semester of the season, right? And on the first season, instead of having a group stage phase, instead of having a league phase, I believe most of people don't really want to watch the group stage with the teams that we currently have in the CONCACAF. You know, like why do you want to watch, for example, Inter Miami versus Chorrillo FC? So that's my point. And well, instead of having a league phase or a group phase, I believe having another tournament in that semester, in that yes, in that missing semester that we have in the international season, we can fill it with an international competition. For example, in the past, CONMEBOL had Libertadores and Sudamerican Cup played in the same year until 2016, but they were played one on the first semester, Libertadores, and on the second semester, Sudamericana. Before that, they had Copa Merconorte and Copa Mercosur, the same, played on the same year as the Libertadores. So I believe it's fine for all of us if we had the same. The main competition, of course, the CONCACAF Champions Cup, on the other semester having the regional competitions as Central American Cup, the Caribbean Cup, and North American competition, in this case, the Leagues Cup. Then, um, part of my proposal is to make a Champions Leagues Cup. What do I mean by that? So if you reduce the quantity of teams, you get the best of the best. And for example, if you had only 8 teams from Mexico, 4 of them in my proposal could be champions. So well, this is my proposal for the teams that would play from the US, for example. We would have, of course, the MLS champions. We would have the Supporter Shield, the conference, the opposing conference to the MLS champions. So the one, of course, the conference champion, but not the one who won the MLS. I think that's clear. Then the US Open Cup, and with that you have 4 champions out of 8 teams that would play it. The other 4, based on the standings, the top ranked teams from the MLS. Then, in this case, no Canadian teams would qualify through the MLS or through the US Open Cup, of course. From Mexico, something similar. So we don't have exactly a supporter shield, but I propose that the teams that play are both tournaments champions, Apertura and Clausura, an annual champion similar to the supporter shield, and the Copa MX champion. We don't have it right now, but let's imagine we do, and I want it back, and a lot of people want it back. So well, those would be 4 out of the 8 birds for Mexico. So 4 champions, and the other 4, well, the top ranked teams in the whole season standings. From Canada, my proposal is having the fourth teams. In this case, would be the Canadian Championship, the Canadian Premier League champion, the finalists not winner, of course, of the Canadian Championship and the Canadian Premier League Supporters Shield. So those would be the birds in my proposal. The league phase. So I would sort of maintain it, just some adjustments for matches, right? Versus different country teams. So MLS teams would forcefully play against Liga MX and Canadian teams. Two home matches and two away matches. For Mexico, three games would be versus MLS teams and one versus a Canadian team. For the US, the opposite. Three games against Mexican teams, different, of course, and one versus a Canadian teams. And for Canada, mixed. Two games versus Mexico and two games versus MLS teams. So then we have an overall standings instead of an individual or a standings for each league with a maximum of four teams. So with that, we get that in the quarterfinals we have still international games. And then, well, so I would propose two pots, and from the four matches that we have on the league phase, having to go two home games and two away games. Two games would be versus pot one. One would be home and one away, and two games would be against a pot two, one home and one away. So this is my proposal of the pots. Pot one, we would have from Mexico the four champions, Liga MX champions, both Apertura and Clausura, Copa MX champion, and the annual Liga MX champion, so the best team in the whole season, okay, as the Super Shield. From the MLS, we had the MLS champion, the MLS Super Shield, the US Open Cup, and the conference champion that didn't win the MLS. So again, four champions. And from Canada, again, two champions, Canadian Championship and the Canadian Premier League champion. So that would be pot one. And then we have the pot two, which is basically the rest. The four top ranked teams from Liga MX, the four top ranked teams from MLS, the finalist of the Canadian Championship, and the Canadian Premier League Supporters Shield. And then I have a simulation, what it could be. So the Leagues Cup 2026 simulation based on the season 24/25, and for the MLS would be the season 2025. Okay. So for example, in the pot one for Mexico would be Toluca and America as Clausura and Apertura champions. Monterrey, which was the last Copa MX champion. I'm taking this team for this example, and then Cruz Azul, which was the best team. Let's consider him sort of being the Supporters Shield champion, but in Liga MX. And then from MLS, Inter Miami, Philadelphia Supporters Shield, and then Nashville as the US Open Cup winners, and San Diego, since Vancouver won the conference but didn't win the MLS. In this case, I'm taking San Diego, which was the finalist and was also like the best team in the conference. So in their conference. And well, from Canada, Vancouver Whitecaps would be the Canadian Championship champions, and Atletico Ottawa, which was the Canadian Premier League champion. And the platoon, the rest of the teams that were the top ranked basically on their leagues. So for Mexico, Tigres, Pumas, León, and San Luis, the four best that were not that were qualified. Sorry, and for MLS, the next four best: Cincinnati, LAFC, Charlotte, and Minnesota. And for Canada, Vancouver FC, which was the finalist of the Canadian Championship, and Forge, which was the Canadian Premier League Supporter Shield winner. And well, this would be a simulation of the league phase. Okay, so for example, Toluca would have two games against MLS teams in this. I mean, three games. Sorry, LAFC, Philadelphia, and Minnesota, and one against a Canadian team. In this case, Vancouver Whitecaps. They would visit LAFC and Vancouver Whitecaps, and they would play home versus Philadelphia and Minnesota. For Monterrey, America, Cruz Azul, and so on, this was uh, here I got some help from AI to make the simulation. And well, then we have the same for the other teams. And then for MLS teams, for example, Inter Miami, the games that they would have against against the Mexican teams would be Monterrey, Tigres, and León, and the Canadian team, Vancouver FC. So two games away and two games home. Okay, and the same for all the other MLS teams. And then here are the others. And then, for example, for Canada, the same. It would be two home games, two away games, and it would be two versus Mexican teams and two versus MLS teams. For example, Atletico Ottawa. Okay, the two Mexican teams they play against is American Pumas, and the two games they play against MLS teams is San Diego and Charlotte. Okay, so well, this would be sort of the league phase and the simulation of the standings of the complete table, and here we have the eight best qualifying to the next round. So the top is America, LAFC, San Diego, Inter Miami, Vancouver, Monterrey, Cruz Azul, and FC Cincinnati. As you can see, we have four MLS teams taken from the second to the fifth. No, sorry. Well, so taking four spots, right? So my proposal in this case is we reorder them. So we have the best four MLS teams and the best four not MLS teams. So in this case would be LAFC playing against Vancouver Whitecaps, San Diego against Cruz Azul, Inter Miami against Monterrey, and FC Cincinnati would play against America. Okay, so we reorder them to avoid the same league matches in the quarterfinals. And well, this is an example of what it could be if we had a fifth team, for example, a fifth Mexican team in the best eight. So since they are still competing versus their own league teams, Toluca would lose this place and it would be granted to Vancouver Whitecaps, which is the ninth. I don't know if you can see the table, but well, we have America, Monterrey, Cruz Azul, Tigres, Toluca. We have five, but only the best four qualified. Toluca is eliminated, and then the next best four are qualified: LAFC, Inter Miami, Philadelphia, and Vancouver Whitecaps. But this is just an example. Okay. Continuing with the simulation we have, this would be the results in the matches. LAFC would win against Vancouver, Cruz Azul would win against San Diego, Monterrey would win against Inter Miami, and Cincinnati would surprise and win against America. So again, this was all simulated with AI. I asked for help to it, and well, then we have the semifinals based on the standings. It would be the first versus the fourth, second and versus the third. So in this case, the semifinals would be LAFC versus FC Cincinnati and Monterrey versus Cruz Azul. Again, home and away games, and well, LAFC advances to the final, and in the simulation, Monterrey advances as well. And the match for the third place would be the losers of the semifinals. So in this case, Cincinnati and Cruz Azul. So now that we know who are the finalists, this is my proposal on how to choose the venues. For example, taking Texas, which is in the US, but it's also very near to Mexico. So taking maybe Dallas or taking maybe Houston would be a neutral, 100% neutral venue for the final, since we already have Mexican fans also in the cities, and for LAFC fans, it wouldn't be so much trouble to move. And well, so that would be like 100% neutral. But let's imagine we make it neutral but rewarding. In this case, if LAFC had a better overall, let's say, performance during the tournament, they get to choose where to play, but they wouldn't play at their own stadium. So this is an example. If we are going to reward LAFC, they can, for example, play in San Diego, in Los Angeles, but not in their stadium, in the Galaxy LA Galaxy Stadium. Okay, let's imagine the opposite. Okay, if Monterrey has an overall better performance in the tournament, and we want to reward them with the venue, they wouldn't play at their own stadium, but they can choose maybe where to play. So, for example, they can choose to play in their own city, but in another stadium, or near to their city. In this case, for example, the CCM Stadium in Torreon, which is near. So, this is my proposal of selecting the venues. This would be the final simulation of the quarterfinals, semifinals, and the final and third place match. And well, now this is my proposal of the calendar. This year, Leagues Cup is set to start on August 4th. So I took that as a reference to start also the simulation. So this is my proposal. Match day one would be played in the first week of August. So it would be played from Tuesday to Thursday, and it would be on the 4th, 5th, and 6th of August. And then you rest for a week, or well, the teams rest for a week. They play then the second match day on the week, on the weekdays, Tuesday to Thursday, that would be the 18th to the 20th. Okay, and then again they rest for a week, and we have the match day three, which my proposal is make it similar to Premier League, to World Cup, to other tournaments, that the last match day would be at the same day and time. In this case, since they rest, this match day would move to September. Okay, so in the first week of September, the second, we would have the final match day, right? Then the quarterfinals would be home and away, and they would be continuously played. They rest for a week, and they play the quarterfinals again from Tuesday to Thursday, and in the simulation it would be the first leg from the 15th to the 17th, and the second leg from the 22nd to the 24th, and then again they rest for a week, and then we move to October. Okay, then the semifinals can be played on Tuesday and Wednesday, Wednesday and Thursday, or maybe both semifinals played on Wednesday. Well, doesn't matter too much, but the idea is again, they rest one week after the quarterfinals, and then they are played continuously. Okay, so the first leg of semifinals would be on October, the first, yes, the first Tuesday and Wednesday, the 6th and 7th, and the second leg would be on October 13 and 14. And well, the final and the game for the third place would be after, again, they rest one week, and then on the weekend of the next week, they would play the final and the third place game. So this is my proposal of the calendar. Finally, I'm going to show the main differences. We had neutral venues. It is not all played in the US. So in this format that I'm proposing, we have home and away games in both league phase, quarterfinals, and semifinals. We include Canadian teams not as part of the MLS but as part of their own competitions. We had 16 fewer teams, so it's more exclusive, in my opinion, more interesting. And well, it's sort of like a Champions League Cup, since you have the best teams and the champions of each league and tournament. And well, it is played during more time. The calendar it's longer, which I believe is also interesting. It gives a chance to the fans to get some hype on it. And well, that'd be it for my proposal. Thanks for watching.